A French soldier has been taken to hospital after being stabbed in the neck in the western business district of Paris. He was on patrol as part of an ongoing anti-terrorist operation. The attacker, reportedly a man of North African origin, is now on the run. French President Francois Hollande has said he will look at whether there was any connection with a murder in London on Wednesday. A British soldier was decapitated by two attackers with a machete, sparking a wave of Islamophobic violence there. Well, for more on this, now let's cross live to journalist Sukant Chandan, who's in London. Well, President Hollande hasn't actually said there's a likely connection between the Paris and London attacks, but do you think it is likely?
I think it's likely, at least in the sense that if it's true that this attack took place, etc., it seems like a similar pattern to in the type of strategical and ideological approach of the pro-Al-Qaeda type of so-called jihadi groups, similar to Islam for UK of Anjem Choudhury and Omar Bakri Mohammed and al-Muhajirun, etc. But I think we need to understand, because there's two basic explanations that people give. People either take the French government or the British government line on things like Woolwich the other day, or what's happening in Paris today, or they say it's all about foreign policy of France or Britain. And I don't think those two positions really hold enough substance as an explanation. Because yesteryear, yes, we did have international terrorism, which was a direct response and resistance to Western foreign policy of the type of Wadi Haddad of the PFLP, Carlos the Jackal, and in the Algerian National Liberation War. In France, you had sabotage of factories, and you had also French radical leftists joining in with the Algerians to conduct sabotage. But what we're seeing today is, I think, the Western intelligence services have done their research and they've developed a new form of manipulating that anger, which is undoubtedly there. Undoubtedly, our young people are seething with anger at the injustice, and they have the humanity to identify in commonality with the victims of imperialist policy throughout the region. But the difference between yesteryear and today is that these groups are facilitating everything, everywhere they go, everything they touch. The result is that imperialism gains and Muslims lose. So really, we have to start dissecting this in a bit more of a nuanced and sophisticated manner.
OK, but the fact is that it seems that the Woolwich attackers were acting on their own. They weren't part of a major network. It seems perhaps this could be the case in Paris, if it is a lone wolf attacker, as it were. Sukant, how do you deal with that when it is obviously a homegrown ideology, something coming from those people themselves rather than being part of an organisation?
No, I disagree that they're lone wolf and this isolated and out of the blue. They are part of a network, and British Prime Minister Cameron has admitted, so has the Ministry of Defence, so has MI5, that one of the Woolwich attackers, Adebolajo, if I'm not mistaken, the young gentleman who went on camera to explain with his hands bloodied, was actually under surveillance for a good part of 7-8 years by the intelligence services. And now it's just come out, literally today and yesterday in the mainstream press, that MI5 had asked this same young gentleman to be recruited to work for them just 8 months prior to the Woolwich attack. Now, this network of Anjem Choudhury's group, the people, the periphery and the supporters and the members, also the same gentleman, by the way, conducted the Woolwich attack, is been plastered on photographs taken at different protests having scuffles with the police. So he was well known to them. But hold on a second. On the one hand, they're saying, oh, the British foreign policy is the reason why we're conducting this gruesome terrorist act. On the other hand, the same person and his group and his leaders are asking everyone to go to Syria to fight a so-called jihad. Syria is not occupying any Muslim lands. Syria is a resistant state of the global south.
OK, so, if foreign policy is at the heart of this, do you think that France, Britain and other governments may rethink their military policies in Muslim countries now?
No, they won't, and everything is going pretty much to plan for them, except in Syria, and except when they're faced with serious resistance movements, such as the Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah. Let's just be honest that these type of attacks plays into the strategy of the state to promote a false sense of Islam, so what people, the masses around the world, conceive wrongly as Islam is a disgusting version of the faith, and in so doing criminalizes all Muslims around the world, and then they use these groups groups, like your report had just said, in Niger to conduct destabilization, so the French can go in, pretending to be the neutral arbitrators, bringing peace and stability. This is a big game of theater, smoke and mirrors that really has to be dissected from a position that is opposing Western hegemony.
Now, the London murder sparked a surge of anti-Muslim violence there in Britain. Do you think we can expect the same in France now? And, of course, that anti-Muslim sentiment, that doesn't come as any surprise to you, surely, as a result of what's happened.
Exactly, and that's part of the state strategy, is to make sure that everyone is pointing fingers at everyone but the actual arbitrators of the economic crisis, of police corruption, of a unjust and immoral foreign policy, i.e. those in power in France and those.
But nevertheless, you can't excuse the extreme violence and shocking horror of what's happened in the streets.
No, absolutely, I don't justify it. I oppose it. But what I'm saying is that this type of activity took place yesteryear, which had a universalistic kind of ideological approach, which developed solidarity among actual liberation movements. These people are not attached to any liberation movements. They're attached to destabilization, traumatizing, divisive, and violently sectarian ideological movements, as we can see clearly in the cannibalistic tactics of those so-called rebels, nothing but death squads in Syria and in Libya before that.
Sukant Chandan, thank you very much indeed for your comments live here on RT.